So for reading today, we're just going to be talking about the frog and the ox, which is another Aesop fable. And this, again, remember, a fable is a story that has a moral or meaning behind it. And the moral behind this one is self-conceit, which means being full of pride, may lead to self-destruction, which is when you kind of destroy yourself. Right, the frog and the ox. "Oh, father," said a little frog to the big one sitting by the side of a pool, I've seen such a terrible monster. It was as big as a mountain, with horns on its head and a long tail, and it had hoofs divided in two." "Tush, child, tush," said the old frog. "That was only Farmer White's ox. It isn't so big either. He may be a little bit taller than I am, but I could easily make myself quite as broad, just you see." So he blew himself out, and he blew himself out, and blew himself out. "Was he as big as this?" asked he. "Oh, much bigger than that," said the young frog. Again the old one blew himself out, and asked the young one if the ox was as big as that. "Bigger, father, bigger," was the reply. So the frog took a deep breath, and blew and blew and blew, and swelled and swelled and swelled. And then he said, "I'm sure the ox is not as big as," but as at this moment he burst. Self-conceit may lead to self-destruction. Cool. So I've got a couple of questions for you. Remember, self-conceit is being full of pride or kind of up yourself, and it can lead to you kind of self-destruction. Another way of saying it is the pride comes before the fall, which is another old saying. So I've got a couple of questions, 5 questions for you to answer. Pause them on each title. I'll go through them quickly though. 1, I want you to pick out 2 nouns. 2, pick out 2 adjectives. 3, explain what broad means when it says, "but I could easily make myself quite as broad." 4, what does swelled mean? And 5, ask yourself, is there a time that you are full of pride sometimes? Right, marking now. So we're going to pick out the nouns in this. You could have picked out quite a few nouns in here. We're going to mark the nouns, circle the nouns in a red pen. So we start off the frog and the ox is a noun. Father's a noun. Frog's a noun. So the pool is a noun. Monster's a noun. Mountain's a noun. Horns is a noun. Head's a noun. Tail's a noun. I'll give the time to. Hooves are a noun. Child's a noun. Frog's a noun. Farmer White's and ox is a noun. Coming down. Frog again. Ox. Father noun. Reply is actually a noun. If it was replied, it would be a verb, but in this form it's a noun. Frog is a noun. Breath is a noun. Ox is a noun. And self-conceit and self-destruction are both nouns. Cool. Now we're going to go through and pick out some adjectives. Okay, so we've got a couple here again. We've got little, we've got big, terrible. Terrible is a great adjective. As big as a mountain, great simile there. Long, old, big, taller, broad. Big, bigger, young, deep. There we go. And so that's our adjectives. Now, what does broad mean? Broad means wide. Okay, so that would mean wide. And what does swelled mean? If we have a look, we can kind of get a sense of what it means just based on what's happening in the story. Okay, so swelled actually means to make bigger, which is what the frog's trying to do. He's trying to make himself bigger. Ask yourself, are you too full of pride sometimes? Okay, so that's a personal question. You can have a think about that. Has there been times when you've been too full of pride? No, there's definitely times for most of us, myself included. So have a thinking about that. Think about how you can manage that so it doesn't lead to self-destruction. Well done. That's reading for today.